Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a connection that might seem a bit out there at first. What if the way we understand language in our, complicated relationships actually gives us a really vital way to look at cybersecurity and, well, deception?
Yeah, it sounds like two totally different worlds, doesn't it? But they're surprisingly linked.
Right. We often think cybersecurity is all, tech stuff, firewalls, code.
Hmm.
But the human side, specifically how we use words, how we interpret them, that's actually fundamental, both for attacks and for defense.
Absolutely. And our guide for this is Dr. Dan Shepperd. He's an academic with a really fascinating background, stretching from like the super early internet days right through to deep analysis of language and how people interact.
So our mission today is basically to unpack his work. We'll explore how his expertise, particularly in qualitative psychology and something called discourse analysis, gives us these unexpected insights. Insights into how language shapes, well, everything, our reality, our behavior, and how it can even be used as a weapon online.
You'll see how his academic approach helps make sense of things from, say, how friendships work, all the way to the tactics used by, some pretty notorious hackers.
Okay, so let's trace his path a bit. His academic journey is quite broad. He's been affiliated with several UK universities, Aston, Surrey, Goldsmiths, Winchester.
Right, and he even did a stint as an invited guest over at the University of Michigan. He was sharing European qualitative methods, specifically looking at gender and sexuality. That really signals he had a unique, influential take early on.
And his time at Aston University seems particularly key. He wasn't just a lecturer in psychology, he was the director of studies for the whole department.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, overseeing the entire psychology curriculum, maybe about 1,000 students, for something like 5 years. And he was an award-winning lecturer, too, so he really shaped how psychology was taught there.
And what's really interesting is his approach to how you do research, the methodology. He strongly believed, and I think this is a direct quote, that your methodological approach should come from the research question rather than ideological adherence to discourse or numbers.
Okay, so break that down. What does that mean practically?
It means he wasn't rigidly stuck in one camp, like only qualitative or only quantitative. He thought the question you're asking should decide the tools you use. It's about understanding the problem best, not just sticking to your favorite research style.
That makes sense. Kind of pragmatic.
Very. And you see that practical side even earlier. Apparently, his preference for using the Linux operating system, which was maybe less common then, actually helped him connect with colleagues in neuroscience.
Huh. So even his tech choices, open doors, shows
Yeah.
adaptability.
Exactly. And speaking of tech, this leads to a really surprising part of his background. Way back around 1994, he was running an old-school bulletin board system, a BBS.
Wow. Okay, so people dialing in with modems,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
That's the one. Think about it. This is pre-mainstream internet. And here's the kicker. He was providing free email addresses to the general public.
Free email in 94? Before companies like Hotmail even existed.
Pretty much. Outside of maybe government and universities, that just wasn't common. He was genuinely an early tech innovator, making this stuff accessible.
So he was already deep into communication systems and how information flows long before his formal work on language analysis.
Right. It feels like that tech background sort of set the stage for thinking about how systems, including social systems, are built and how they work.
Okay, so let's shift from tech back to language, but in the context of, well, us, human relationships. This is where his PhD research comes in.
Yeah, his work at the University of Surrey, roughly 2002 to 2010, it focused on discourses of friendship between gay men and heterosexual women, what people casually call the gay best friend idea.
Ah, okay. I've heard that term.
And his published work digs deeper into this, talking about something called mythical norms.
Mythical norms.
Yeah.
What are those exactly? Sounds intriguing.
They're basically those unspoken, idealized standards in society. Things we often just absorb about what's normal or ideal, maybe related to race, gender, sexuality, success.
Like the classic white picket fence dream being the only definition of a good life.
Exactly like that. They're standards that seem natural, but they're constructed, and they often give advantages or privilege to certain groups without us even realizing it.
Okay, I see. So how did he apply that to friendships between gay men and straight women?
Well, his research used critical social psychology and discourse analysis, we'll get more into that, to look at how these societal stereotypes or expectations might actually shape those friendships. It asks, how does the language we use, the stories we tell, reinforce these norms? And can that create pressure or misunderstanding, maybe getting in the way of a genuine connection? It's about deconstructing how these norms get built through talk.
Right. Which brings us squarely to his main expertise, qualitative psychology.
Yeah, he's a specialist there. His interests cover critical social psychology, relationships, identity, gender, and the big one for our chat today, discourse analysis.
So maybe quickly explain the difference again, qualitative versus quantitative.
Sure. Quantitative research often looks for broad patterns, maybe across large groups, often using numbers and statistics. It tends to try and minimize individual differences to find a general trend.
Okay.
Qualitative research, which is Dr. Shepperd's focus, does the opposite in a way. It dives deep into individual experiences and interpretations. It focuses on the why behind behavior, embracing subjectivity rather than trying to eliminate it. It's about understanding how people make sense of their world.
And his specific tool for that is this discursive approach.
Primarily, yes. And this is a really key idea. The discursive approach sees language, our talk, our writing, not just as a window into our thoughts, but as an action in itself. Communication is a behavior happening in a social context.
Okay, wait. Language is action. Give me an example.
Okay, think about it. If someone says, "Are you really going to wear that?" They aren't just asking for information, are they?
No, it sounds like they're criticizing or questioning my choice.
Exactly. The words are performing an action, challenging, judging, maybe expressing a surprise. That's the core idea. Discourse analysis looks at the details of what's said in its situation to understand what social action it's performing. It's less about guessing the speaker's hidden intent and more about analyzing what the words do.
That's a powerful way to look at communication.
It really is, and it connects to another important concept in qualitative work, reflexivity. His involvement with the British Psychological Society's group on this suggests it's central for him.
Reflexivity.
It's basically the researcher turning the magnifying glass back on themselves, acknowledging their own biases, assumptions, background, and how that might shape how they see and interpret the data or the conversation.
So it's about being aware of your own lens.
Precisely. It's about owning your subjectivity, understanding your position, which actually makes the research more trustworthy, not less, because you're being transparent about potential influences.
Interesting. Now, the outline mentioned phenomenology, too. How does that fit in?
Right. So he has supervised research using phenomenology, which tries to get at the lived experience of something. But his primary expertise, and maybe where he's more theoretically aligned, is discourse analysis.
Okay.
He seems a bit more skeptical, maybe agnostic is the word, about whether we can truly access someone's ultimate internal experience or intention just through their description of it. He might view that core intention as potentially unknowable.
So if a hacker, for instance, says, my goal was X.
Dr. Shepperd's perspective would likely urge caution. Don't just take that stated intention at face value. Analyze the language they use to state that goal. What function did saying that serve in that context? The stated goal could even be a misdirection.
Okay, that makes sense. Scrutinize the act of speaking itself.
Exactly. Focus on the observable behavior, the discourse.
So let's make the jump now. We've talked about language shaping relationships, building norms, acting as behavior. How does this connect to the often quite technical world of online security?
Well, that paper you mentioned, Discursive Stratagems and Ideology in Cybersecurity Online Reports, draws a direct line. It shows how discourse analysis can reveal the way social and political reality gets constructed, even in cybersecurity discussions.
Constructed? How so?
Think about how security incidents are reported or how policies are discussed. The language used isn't neutral. It frames the issue, assigns blame, promotes certain solutions. Discourse analysis unpacks how that happens.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. It might look at things like rhetorical questions,
Yeah.
Questions designed to make a point, not get an answer, or metaphors, how is hacking described, as warfare, as theft. That changes how we feel about it. It also looks at deictic expressions, those little words like we, they, here, then, who is included in we, who are they. That positioning matters hugely.
And ideology, how does that play in?
Well, language can be used to push certain viewpoints, making them seem like common sense. Think about describing a security measure. Is it framed as protecting us or as infringing on freedom? Or calling a policy anti-people that's using language to shape opinion by embedding an ideological stance?
I see. So the analysis reveals how language isn't just describing security events, it's actively shaping how we understand them, who we trust, what we fear.
Precisely. It helps us understand the human social dimension of cybersecurity, how information framing and perception are manipulated through words.
This feels like the perfect setup to talk about arguably the most famous manipulator in hacking history, Kevin Mitnick.
Ah, yes, Mitnick, the world's greatest hacker, as he was often called. He really brought the term social engineering into the mainstream.
And social engineering is essentially.
It's the psychological manipulation of people to get them to divulge information or perform actions they shouldn't. Basically, a high-tech confidence trick.
And Mitnick was a master? How do you do it?
His methods were very calculated. He'd do extensive background research, what we now call OSINT, open source intelligence, finding out details about his targets from publicly available info.
Okay, reconnaissance.
Right. Then he'd use that info to craft believable stories or pretexts. He exploited known cognitive biases, things like our tendency to trust authority figures or to reciprocate favors or to follow the crowd. He used principles of influence, reciprocity, scarcity, authority, liking, consistency, social proof, unity.
So he used charm, storytelling, basically weaponized language.
Exactly. Language, persona, narrative, these were his tools to build trust rapidly and trick people into giving him access or information.
Okay, here it is, the connection. Mitnick is the practitioner, the one doing the manipulation with language.
He's the magician performing the trick.
Right. And Dr. Shepperd's work, discourse analysis, it's the method for understanding how the trick works.
That's a great analogy. Mitnick used language performatively to create false realities and breach security. Dr. Shepperd's discipline provides the critical tools to dissect how that linguistic and psychological influence actually operates, how the illusion is constructed.
So Mitnick's art of deception, as he called it, is all about framing, narrative, exploiting how we react to language.
Which is precisely what discursive psychology aims to deconstruct and understand. When Mitnick used pretexting, inventing a scenario from a discursive view, that's a deliberate linguistic act designed to position himself and the target in a specific way to achieve a goal. We can analyze the words, the structure, the implied power dynamics.
So it's the difference between doing the thing and understanding the mechanics behind the doing.
You've got it. Mitnick showed us language as a tool for manipulation in action. Dr. Shepperd's field gives us the framework to understand how language functions as social action to achieve goals, whether that's building a friendship norm or executing a cyber attack.
Wow. It really shows that words aren't just passive descriptors.
Not at all. They're active forces, they build worlds, they influence actions, they have real consequences.
So wrapping this up, our deep dive today into Dr. Dan Shepperd's work, it's really shown this incredible power woven into language and social construction. We went from his early days messing with BBS systems.
Yeah, pioneering tag.
All the way to these deep insights into relationships, identity, and even the tactics of cybersecurity. It drives home that viewing language as behavior, not just thought bubbles, really opens up new ways to analyze, well, everything around us.
It really does. It's about understanding those often invisible ways language shapes our perceptions and prompts our actions. It's quite empowering, actually.
Definitely. So here's something for you, the listener.
Yeah.
Think about. How aware are you of those mythical norms we talked about? How might they be subtly shaping your own views or interactions? And maybe next time you're reading something online, especially about security or politics or anything where opinions are strong, take a second. Ask yourself, how is the language here working? What reality is it trying to build? What social actions are these words trying to achieve?
Dr. Shepperd's work basically invites us all to be more critical, more discerning observers of the narratives that constantly surround us and try to shape our lives.